You ever watch? Great movie. Back upstairs. You ever watch the Gundam Wing Endless Waltz? And they had that moment when Hero Yue was using the Zero system to predict the future to figure, using the basic AI to figure out what the heck is going on, right? And they sit there like dealing with all these different contradictions, just going like, none of this makes sense. Even Zero won't tell me anything. Tell me the answer.
This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes you just see something and your brain just stops and you have to just stare at it. It also didn't help that my neighbors are playing music until 2 a.m. loud enough to shake the side of my house. So I was awake. I was awake and irritated, so I could easily go, "Oh, fuck this."
Demonetized.
Oops. So today's sponsor is Ray Shadow Legends, right?
No. Tunny.
Wildgate.
Don't worry, it's Marvel Strike Force.
Marvelous. Oh, God.
Rough Dog's Candy.
God, we should sling coffee. We should just. Speaking of sponsors, we actually did get someone actually asked to see if we could sponsor the show. They asked like, "Well, how much you want to charge?" I'm like,
What is it?
I didn't think that was
1
real.
million.
It's actually like my friend, real estate agent. A lot of his own property, so
Oh yeah. Like,
pump a real estate agent up there. I was like, okay. It's like, I don't know.
You could ask. Your leader probably has a good rate chart for something like that, based on how many downloads and listeners and everything.
He's trying to make money. I'm just trying to help somebody out. Yeah,
I'm trying to help my friends.
No matter what I charge, I have to pay like a 25%
No, I'm just saying.
your leader, and then split it. What is it? 60, 20, 20.
5.
5.
I don't know about that. Let me check the bylaws of this contract I have. Oh man, my contract shows that whatever you make, I have to make.
What? I didn't say that. I don't remember saying that. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to an episode of Low Key on the Wheel of Returns Networks. My name's Harry, aka Movie Target, and we're having a little fun this episode. No, this episode's not sponsored. Well, things are fake. We make as much money as we have always made on these episodes. Just enough to cover the hosting costs. But this episode's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can actually get to everything. So I'm going to introduce everyone, then I'm going to take a small break. So I'm going to say hi. This is Rhinehold. Rhinehold, you going to say hi?
Hi, Rhinehold. This is Rhinehold. I'm talking now. How are you? Because it's been a hot minute since I've been able to think clearly the past 4 days. It's been a rough weekend.
It was a rough weekend. We had a lot of protests and stuff like that, and Indie Pride was going on. I didn't get to go to anything for Pride this weekend, which
didn't go to.
I didn't go downtown for
Skateland.
No, didn't go to roller skating to Skateland. Didn't do anything fun for Pride. I did yoga during all Pride activities. I did find it really nice because like the No Kings protest, which was kind of cool because a lot of the idiot Republicans would try to like troll it. I'm like, listen, you have no leg to stand on. That was a perfect name. It's like, you don't notice. It's like, yeah, the executive orders are king crap. King shit.
Here's my thing. I got confused.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were talking about the music band No More Kings.
Yeah, me too.
I like. Where's they're playing again? He's playing again. I thought he was still solo, right? I'm on his Patreon. I didn't see anything.
Right.
I was looking forward to the replay of the music.
I know, massive like bunch of random concerts, country wide. All of a sudden, it's like, this is awesome. I'm gonna stream live it on TikTok in one big continuous loop with each person everywhere. Anyways, just gave somebody an idea.
Brilliant.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be fine. Hopefully it'll be 98 degrees using it on the comeback tour. Anyways, that also famous laugh of the network. Yeah, Vincent. Vincent, we can say hi.
Hi everyone, I'm here. I get paid by being able to just talk random bullshit for an hour plus, depending on what the topic is. Slash, Harry just goes here's this softball thing I know you hate. Enjoy.
Please, please
It's-
talk. Please
and then,
talk.
then I just fucking ran about it for half an hour.
Exactly. All right. All right. I'm gonna pop off real quick. You guys got the show, and I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, now it's time to take over. What Harry doesn't know is we've been plotting this for weeks at a time.
Of course we have. So Rhinehold, I know you had this quiz you wanted me talking about a lot.
A quiz?
Or
What do you mean?
whatever
What are
the
you talking
thing,
about?
whatever the thing you
I
wanted to
have no
talk
idea.
about for a while ago.
Fine. It was just some silly little quiz that came out, but I thought it was interesting and it spoke a lot about perceptions
Hmm.
and how perceptions kind of make people crazy and hold them back because of it. So I can probably share it out. Hold on a second. And I'm going to figure out how to do
It's
this because, I don't even know if I have the rights to do this, but we're going to try it.
right, but
Are,
it's actually really
are you
interesting that you're talking about.
seeing it?
I see nothing. Yes, if you pull this up on the screen, I think he says he's.
He's got to do it. That's what I thought.
But
Anyway, well, I'll just get into it here. So there was a poll that came out. There's a simple Twitter poll that someone presented, and I really want you to see the picture. The picture is important to see. That's why I'm kind of wanting to wait a little bit till he gets back to get into it. But it's basically somebody posted a picture of who Ollie Murs. I don't know if you know who he is. A British singer, Ollie Murs. And it's a picture, side by side picture of him, like as he says he's going to start working out, and then another picture as he's like made all his progress and got really ripped. Right? He's got like he's a real well defined six pack. He's got lost a lot of body fat, etc. And before he had kind of a he wasn't overweight, but he was kind of a lumpy dad bod almost, right? And so they posted this person, William Costello, asked, "Do you think he looks better before or after? And are you male or female?" And 42% said he looked better after, and they were male. And 42% of the men said he looked better after, and 23% of the men said he looked better before. 26% of the respondents were female, saying that he looked better before, and 7% said after. Right. So basically, what they're saying is that a lot of the men were saying he looked better after he did all this ripping and working out, and a lot of the women said no, he looked better before that, which caused a lot of men just responding saying, "Why are women lying about this?" Instead of just accepting the fact that maybe women see different things when they're looking at men's bodies, where they're more attracted to other things other than something hard. A lot of them were responding saying, I want somebody when they put their arms around me and hold me aren't, like it's like stone holding them. They wanted to kind of be able to mold into something, or feel comfortable, or not feel like you're up against a hard wall or something like that. So anyway, it just started into this whole back and forth and feud. Basically, it's just everybody freaking out about why are women lying and etc. So I always thought that was interesting, because there's actually, in this article, there's actually studies that are presented showing how this has been a known thing for a long time, that men see muscularity different than what women see. Right, the representation is different. Like I see that a lot with women too, on the other side of things, where women will think that this one woman would be considered really beautiful, but most men are like, they have a different thing that they're attracted to.
Yep.
And it's especially not consistent across the sexes either, that where like a universal identity of beauty.
Mhm.
Doesn't really exist. So, so I don't know. Did you are you back, Harry? Because I can't
Yeah, I'm
see
here.
you.
Yeah,
I'm here.
he's showing it. He's
Yeah,
showing it the whole time.
you just showing it. Oh,
Mhm.
so show me. So yeah, there's the picture right there. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can see that right there. So that's what I was getting into is I really think that is a great study in how people perceive things and
Mhm.
how people perceive other people perceiving things or expecting other people to be that way. So it's not just around physicality, it's also personality wise and things like that, where people think, oh, I'm just, you know, I could never find a girlfriend, etc. Nobody would want to be with me, blah blah blah. And it's like you don't know because you don't talk to the women, you don't find out, or you haven't talked to the man to find out. You got to just put your best foot forward and find out you know what's out there. Because how many times you see what you would consider a very attractive woman with a guy that you would think is a slut, right? It's because they're looking at different things that they're attracted to, and it's not necessarily all physicality. It's a lot more emotional on the women's side of things, as opposed to men are much more attracted to physical beauty, whereas I think women are much more attracted to a sense of things or a feeling that they get around that
Mhm.
person or how that person behaves or acts, much more than what they physically look like.
Yeah, on average, but you do see
Yeah.
the women that do date 350Z fuckboys.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
out
see
Oh,
here.
you
that.
got yeah
Yeah,
women. I mean, a lot of women with
yeah.
what you would say is that maybe daddy issues, whatever, that will go after the guy that treats
I,
them bad because that's what they think they're supposed to be with. And it's a whole psychology, but most of them grow out of that
yeah,
eventually, and those fuckboys end up having to continually go after the younger girls because they can't land somebody their own
yeah, yeah.
age
Yeah.
because by then they're matured and said, "No, I don't want that. You're an idiot. I don't want you."
Exactly. Yeah. Then they mature. They're higher in the 30s. They've got more money, and they're still fuckboys, and they just have more money at that point. Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think this is a good example of the general perception of things as they stand now. I was having this conversation with Harry on Saturday that
Mhm.
the concept of reading, especially fiction, is perceived to be a feminine thing
Hmm.
in comparison. Like if a reading fiction or in particular is like, oh, it's a feminine thing, why would you read that? That's for women. And then when you even see it in media, because if you look at anything in media, if you see a man reading a book, the only time it's not done as a joke is if he is reading a technical book that is
Hmm.
teaching him something, a history book that is teaching him something, or a really old classic novel that has been around for a long time,
Yep.
because that's what that is like this general perception
It's
A
of
book about
what
ancient
things.
Rome, usually, right? That's the big
right.
thing.
Yeah. Well,
And
not even
it's
that.
about
Like,
Rome.
all right. So, like, one of my talk to tricks that I've hold on to myself is that, like I don't really feel like sometimes I feel like worthless sometimes, or like we really wasting my time and being a loser if I'm not like concretely progressing on myself. I get into these states like, no, I constantly have to keep getting better, instead of just like, no, it's okay to stop and read something for fun. A lot of people's like, it's like, I love reading, right? And they'll look at my library, what the heck is this? It's like technical manuals. Or like they're like small like gaming books or stuff like that. Like, yeah, this is what I read. It's like, but like reading just fiction for the heck of fiction and fun, I rarely do it. I love doing it, but like a lot of times, like, well, man, I went through that book. I could have just read anything else
Yeah.
like that and like learned something
Well,
else, and I
well,
felt out of it.
sometimes we're pressured into also trying to keep bettering ourselves, so we have to keep reading that stuff, where as opposed to taking a break and relaxing, and you feel like
Right?
you're
Yeah,
wasting your time, or you're not doing what it's to say you're expected to be doing
yeah,
to better your position and
yeah,
family and all that stuff.
yeah. But hey, but like
Same with
I've
playing
got,
games,
I got
right?
some
Playing video
growth.
games.
I did some growth on myself these like last few years, and I don't care. Like I've finally been able to start reading for fun fiction. I've had other people suggest me different books that are really. It's harder for me because I'm, like last time I've really read fiction was very POV style. So like
Hmm.
so. it's hard for me to read a book at the POV of a woman. So it's like, but I got over it, but I've read a lot of trash. It's the books from the main characters kind of stupid. I think they're very stupid and dumb, make some dumb moves, but just from my reasoning, but some books are really neat. I'm finding out like this other book that I'm reading right now called Light Lark. It's not the best written book that I've ever read for fiction, but it's not bad either. I there are worse Disney, Marvel, or just the Disney remakes that are worse than this.
Yes, there are books worse than Light Lark. Like
they are worse things,
which are worse than the original.
But I'm enjoying certain parts of it. Realizing like one of the characters of the I should put spoilers tag. But no. I'm just saying, like, but I want to say, like, that's also been said for the longest time. Like, a lot of guys, especially the young guys, learn this when they get into their later 20s that they want a car to impress the ladies, but you will find out that the Ferraris, the Corvettes, these higher like end sports cars, stuff like that, they get guys' attention.
They're more red flags than anything.
It depends. If certain cars are certain red flags, like bad bills or incomplete. It's like, okay, this guy can't finish a project. Too many project builds.
It's just ADHD. That's not, bad.
Rhinehold's like, shut up.
Like,
I'm not a red flag.
Don't look at my project list is over here.
Don't do that.
Just ignore that. All the things I started.
But I feel like it also comes down to that both sides have a massively different perception of what the other one wants. Mm-hmm. So like there are so many people that are like, I've heard a lot that women hate when. A lot of women hate when guys play video games. Yeah, they don't like video games. They see it as an ick, and they don't want to interact. Right?
Correct. Yeah,
that's a thing. And for them, that's their priority. And I get it, but in my brain, it's just like, but you're okay sitting there watching a reality show for 12 hours, and it's the same difference. So me playing a video game compared to watching Real Housewives of Atlanta is how is that any different?
I saw a great article or a great kind of post that someone had made. She was like, she was showing a picture of how her boyfriend had his computer and she had her computer right next to him. And she said that when they first started getting together, she would resent the fact that he was gaming, and he should be spending time with me. What she realized was that was because she had no hobbies of her own, and that was what she needed to keep from feeling like unfulfilled or empty or whatever. And when she started playing games with him and sharing his hobby, she actually enjoyed it, and now it's something they can share and still play with. There's a lot of people who are telling themselves they don't want to get into playing games or don't like playing games because there's a stigma to it that they've created themselves. They got from maybe society or a certain way of growing up. And it's just like, no, this is just a hobby. As long as you manage it as a hobby and not manage it as letting it take over your life and consume you. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it,
I want to say I appreciate Brian making that genderless, because that goes both ways. I've seen so many different guys that'll be upset with their girls. Like, I can't believe they're doing this different things. Like, because you look at those guys, they don't have a hobby.
Right.
Their hobby is I go to work, come home, and I drink. Don't even watch sports. They don't do anything like that. Which sports is the default men hobby. Default men hobby. We just
that you've seen the great cartoon where the guy comes in and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm watching somebody else play games on Twitch." He's like, "Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just play the game yourself? Why are you watching somebody else play it?" That's so stupid. And he goes into the other room and turns on the TV and starts watching a football game.
Right. Yeah. Watching someone play a game. Yeah. Which is worse? You're watching millionaires play a game.
I mean, technically, they both are.
I don't watch any millionaires on Twitch. Once I find out they're rich, I stop watching them.
You won't watch Ninja, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. You've got money.
Iron Mouse is fun.
I don't watch Iron Mouse. I don't watch rich people. I don't watch rich people play video games. Like, I used to watch Finster. Like, Finn's got too much money. Can't watch it now. Oh, no, I'm serious. I can't watch people with a lot of money sit there playing video games. So can't. Sorry. I like to watch the up and comers, people scrapping by, $250,000. Okay, you're still kind, you're still working class. Okay, but
Or
no,
Oompaville, who not only
Mhm.
had a bunch of money, but he somehow pulled Call Me Chris. I mean, how you get that, I don't know, but
It's called
Candy.
owning a candy company.
so you can't watch that now.
It's
Listen
called
here,
owning a
Kings,
candy
gotta
company.
own a candy.
Yeah, I saw a
Do
commercial
work.
today with her
Work on
doing a
yourself.
commercial for a
Yeah.
candy for the candy
Yeah.
company. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, if you want to pull someone like Call Me Chris, you have to do this thing called work on yourself, and and get out there and do things.
I think
it's called being
getting back
scammed
to
and then recovering from being scammed.
Right, and then recovering, like learning a lot from that.
Yeah, I think one thing I've found out recently is that what really is more attractive to a lot of people, men and women,
Mhm.
without them realizing that's what is attractive to them, is somebody who loves themselves, who cares about themselves, who's happy with themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Because the way I always looked at it when I was trying to figure this stuff out years and years and years ago was that how can I expect somebody else to be attracted to me if I don't like me? Right.
Yeah.
If I don't like me, then who else is going to do that?
Yeah.
Right? So I had to work on that, on why do I not like myself? And can I accept myself for being me? Because that all comes out. If you don't like yourself, that comes out and people see it. They sense it. They feel it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to want to be around that because that's a ticking time bomb.
Right.
Of just something bad's going to happen in this situation.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big things a lot of people don't realize.
Honestly, I also think it's some of a bit of a culture. So, like, men don't dress in a way that actually would show off those types of muscles. Sorry, straight men don't dress in a way to show off those muscle group, because the other picture right there, the after one, that at let's say like you go to a jockstrap party, that you're kidding, but it's all guys, right? But you dress in a way to
So
show
guys
that
attract
off.
other guys,
right? And you dress the way to show
that's
that
not
off.
what men get attracted to when they see that. That's what I'm saying. Is that men will get attracted to other men who look like that.
Women love me and my short shorts. They love me showing off my quads and
but you don't look like that.
Oh no, I've got.
You don't have that six pack.
I rock the dad bod.
That's like
me and my wheat
like
core.
I'll see someone on some woman and my wife's like, oh, I think this looks really cute on her. Her hair looks really great. Or about her dress is this and that. And I look at it, I'm like, that's stupid. I don't understand it. This doesn't attract me. It's like women usually dress for what they think other women think is pretty, to impress the other women. They don't understand that men really don't like a lot of that stuff.
Right. We don't love maxi dresses. We want sundresses. Okay, on you.
Love
not maxis.
Oh my
not
god.
Not maxis. Okay. We don't want the maxi dress. With the maxis up, we want sundresses.
I don't really like mini dresses. I like a good thin sundress that flows.
I have a subreddit to send you. Remind me later.
All right. Yeah, I make women swoon when I go to pick up like my 5-gallon water jugs, and I pick up 2 in both hands and I walk around like it's nothing. That's how I make them swoon.
That's when you go to the church event and you
pick up all the chairs
at the end. Walking.
Yeah, I bring all my groceries in on one trip.
Oh, I do that not because of anything like that. I do it because I am damned if I'm going to walk back out there and get more stuff. I'm just one trip, and I'm not doing that.
Biggest growth I've ever had was to force myself to take multiple trips. Feels great. Feels great. I get all the looks from the dads. It's like
I literally had like 7-8 bags on each arm. I had my arm through the holes, and I had them all hanging from both arms and just walking to the house. I said, I'm not. Nope.
Yeah,
I'll go back out.
No good. Yeah, it was only so like Saturday I found out like the 5-gallon water jugs I pick up close to like 43 to 45 pounds. I found that out. I didn't know that, but I'm just picking them up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Water heavy, bro.
Water heavy.
Water heavy, bro.
Water. I'll tell you this funny. There's a thing just recently where
humble brag.
In my as far as like my wife, what she's attracted to, I've found out that it's a certain physicality thing that I have that she's attracted to, that
you can open not realize bottles with your butt cheeks, can't you? You can open bottles with your butt cheeks.
It's nothing like that.
Oh, okay.
It's like I was hanging a TV up on the wall. I'm mounting it, so I'm kind of got my arms up and I'm mounting it, and I guess the way my back when I'm doing that, the way it kind of flexes a certain way or whatever.
Mhm.
She was just like going, "Oh my god!" It's like getting old. She's like, "Oh," and she mentioned it to me. So it's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So that's stuff like that is what they
Mhm.
get attracted to. It's not like it's just
The only meme
a certain
I can
frame.
think of is just her looking at me just thinking breedable.
Perfect. I can tie him up. Anyways, no.
But yeah, no, I feel like a lot of it's about perception, and there's a lot of cultural perceptions that exist now that feels different than from before, mostly because it becomes more obvious. So like people, there's a focus on men, or if they do read fantasy or fiction, they read sci-fi because it's logical and it has set steps of logical connections or whatever. That's the logic that people use.
Or it's wizards and dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you compare it to, well, then they have the fantasy genre. So how do we differentiate fantasy for men and fantasy for women? Well, we make up this term called romantasy and put all the romance fantasy stuff over here, and fantasy for men will just be called fantasy and put it over here. And which is an actual concept, which is so fucking stupid to me, because most fantasy stories are in essence a love story, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But
well, and you hear this from guys too. It's like, why do they have to put romance in every story? Blah blah blah. And it's like, okay,
it always has
which
been.
one do you end up buying? The ones you end up buying are the ones that have those stories in them, because it's a part of the story. It's something. It's another element or layer to it that you end up enjoying as it's told, right? But yeah, there's times you can read a book where it's like forced, or it's the same with like putting politics or whatever into the story.
Well,
If you do it wrong and you force it, it's very noticeable, and people get turned off by it. But you'll be surprised how many stories that have no like romance stuff in it, men are even saying it's missing something. They can't really put their finger on what.
Correct.
So I think the best representation of it, because I do read a lot of books, is if you read a book written by a man and look at how he writes the female characters, and you take especially if it's like more of like a leaning more towards romance, or has like a romance element to it, like a lot of like detective stories or that kind of stuff, is where they will put the romance because they don't want to call it a romance story, so they have a femme fatale or whatever. And then you take a romance book written by a woman and you look at how they write the men in the books, and you could see there are two massively different perspectives, especially if they're writing them as point of view characters. There are so many romance books where the male lead makes no fucking sense as a person, as a human being. He makes no logical sense. And then you look at a story written by a man, and the woman's proportions sound like they hit random on a dress up doll game on fucking a Flash game before Flash disappeared, and that's how you describe the women in the books. I was like, bruh.
But she came in wearing her 48B bra.
She came in.
I purposely hit wrong numbers. I purposely hit wrong numbers.
No, I know you did. I think my favorite was that somebody said that her cleavage bisected her chest.
Oh, there's a whole thing with Robert Jordan in the Robert Jordan books. It's like how many times he wrote folded her arms under her breast, or the necklace rested nestled inside her breast, that sort of thing. And women are reading this and going, it's like so over the top. It's like so obvious that what he was doing there. But
and then
it's just like you need to be like Melvin Udall when he was writing women, right? When they asked him how he wrote such good, strong women or whatever. And he just said, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability.
So, and that's how we got Star Wars.
As it gets. I'm sorry.
I know. And that's how we got Star Wars. Ray Palpatine.
Couldn't help myself.
Ray Palpatine Skywalker, sir.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
See, so I was doing a lot of writing when I was younger, and I still do occasionally.
We call those fanfics.
But I did really want to take the time and try to figure out like how to write women, because I know Stephen King had a big thing about this and how he struggled with it and spent years and years trying to figure this out. And it's really interesting to try and put yourself in the mind of a woman, not necessarily superficially like you might think, but also
Mhm.
understanding all the things that society dictates because of that, how
Mhm.
she would have to be experience that growing up.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
It's a whole different thing. It's like, and I've talked about this before, I'm sure, but it's like more of an internal thing instead of an external as far as sex
Mhm.
goes, and just all those different things you have to think about. And it's really hard um, to know if you're on the right track there. So it's always important to get, if you're writing another gender, is talk to some people in that other gender and let them read what you're writing and say, hey, does this make sense? Am I on
Yeah.
the right track? Is this something you would think about, or give me some ideas? But you can't, there's no way you can just come off and really know what other people, even as a man, think of knowing what other men are thinking.
Yeah.
You never know what's in somebody else's head, really, without
Yeah.
asking them and finding out. So
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to do.
In my opinion, one of the most important things is that for whatever reason, I don't understand why this is the case, but a lot of the times when I'm reading stories and the author is one gender and they're writing the other gender, they almost write them like they're an alien creature and not a human being.
Mm.
Mhm.
They come at them from a perspective of that is not this isn't a human. So
Mhm.
they add a whole bunch of different traits that doesn't make sense for how you would describe a person. So that's
Yeah.
why you get a lot of those weird descriptions of women of like I think one of them said that she could hula hoop with like a fucking pasta noodle, and like that's how like they describe her waistline. It's like what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
If that was One Piece, perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Or like they said like her body is 60% legs. Like bruh, that's like how any of this works. And then you look at the other side, it's like, oh man, this guy is 7'12". uh he's he only weighs 130 pounds, but it's 130 pounds of all muscle. He has a 12 pack. I was like, bruh,
Oh,
like
yeah,
none
he's
of this
sickly.
isn't a real
He's
person.
he's so
Yeah,
sickly. He's so
it's
sickly.
riffraff you're talking about right there.
I know.
It's
Richard
just
O'Brien. I was
so
watching him. I was watching Richard O'Brien at the 2015 charity event that they did for Rocky Horror,
Mhm.
and he was one of the people who came out and did for the narrator. They had some other famous people too. It was really funny. Stephen Fry. It was hilarious. But
Randall, are
he
you the
comes
one
out
who
and my
posted?
wife's watching it.
Oh,
My wife's watching it and going, "Is he sick?" And I'm like, "He always looks like that. He's always looked emaciated, like 0.2% body fat, and it's just." And he had his head shaved, so he looked like, "Is he on his way? Like, is he okay?" But it's always just the way he is. There are people
Mhm.
like that. It's just weird to me how you can just be that like emaciated and never put on some weight or something.
Yeah, yeah. Were you the
Now, what were
one who
you
posted?
asking?
I was like, are you the one who posted the Korean version of Rocky Horror? I forget.
No,
Someone
wasn't me.
posted it in my feed. I couldn't remember who did. I was sitting there staring at the other, and I was like,
like that's awesome.
I didn't know this existed, but this is amazing. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know Korean, but I know exactly what's going on. Now, I was like, man, I gotta learn some Korean so I can, go
Man,
and
I'm
sing
ready.
along.
I want to do that Korean time warp. Whew,
Right?
excited.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that charity event, though, they had narrators. The Stephen Fry comes out and
Mm.
the audience starts yelling back at him, and he was so good at being able to respond to them in a way that was hilarious. Like at one point, he was saying something about in the narration about she was caught up in it was supposed to be about being inundated like a waves,
Yeah.
and somebody yelled out Cox, and he goes, "Well, that's not what I have here, but that's better actually. We don't use that."
We'll use that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, perception is everything, and a lot of people have conflicting perceptions of what is what other people want, and that's the biggest issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think, and just going back on Rhinehold's part, you need to love yourself, find the part of yourself that you love to, and then flaunt it out. So, men, wear those short shorts, wear that tight shirt,
Just be confident.
show it off. Okay.
Don't
Right.
you don't have to be like showy or peacocky. Just
No, peacock,
if
show it
you're
off.
confident and I did an experiment a
Buy
long
those
time
gray
ago.
sweatpants. Don't listen to Rhinehold.
No, I did an experiment a long time ago. I was when I was younger. I will say that I was fairly good looking, and I would get women look. I had women asking me out a lot of times. I hardly ever ask women out. They usually ask me out. I know I'm hard life. Anyway, I did an experiment on a New Year's Eve. I went to a bar that friends of mine were playing at, and I decided when I walked in, I'm just going to like in my mind just project out this like strongly, like I'm here. Not like a lot of times I'll go and I'm around a lot of people. I kind of like sink into yourself where you try not to be too much of a get attention or whatever. So I didn't like peacock or anything, but I was just like, I'm going to project myself thought wise out. And I was told later by my friends who were there that when I walked in, it was just like everybody just turned and looked because it was just like, it was so, I don't know, people couldn't stop looking. And by the time I made it to the bar, I had two women coming up and hitting on me. So I just walking in and through the crowd that way.
So how much of that, how much social media brain rot had existed at that point?
Social media brain rot? I don't think it was social media.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my
like
point.
Zero brain rot. Yeah.
The biggest issue with that is that there are women out there who make channels dedicated to dating in which they tell their female followers that during the date you have to have the man, you have to confront the man and make him tell you what gift he's going to give you on the second date, and it can't be flowers, and it has to be this, and that's a real thing. That's a thing that exists out there, and you could say that.
Well, there was stuff going on before social media where there was whole classes you could take. Men would give about how to dominate the women and make them, do what you want. It was a whole thing, and it's like,
right.
It was bad because it would work.
A choice. That was a choice that you had to go do that class. And now that there are points where even if you don't want to see it, unless you go out of your way to remove it from your viewing options, the algorithm will put things in and change things and how people interact. It's just it's a different time. While I'm not saying that you're wrong about projecting your confidence, there is the other layer of that was before 20 years of internet brain rot. You got a cell phone.
People aren't that much different. They're still not that much different. Now, there are people who fall into these traps and try to do these things, but if you're confident and you're not trying to get one over or trying to like trick somebody into liking you or trying to play games like that, you can avoid those pitfalls. Be confident in yourself, and if you don't find somebody, you go home. I'm not going to play those games or be that person that you think. And if you come at me with that stuff, I'll just walk away.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy enough with myself that I can be by myself and I'm okay.
Yeah.
That is the game changer.
Yeah.
Is to be happy just being present with yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And knowing you don't have to accept anything less than what makes you happy.
I see also another issue is just like the absence of the third place or to meet individuals. Fortunately, like millennials and even more Gen Z aren't drinking alcohol. I think it's a great thing. So like they really don't have that much time to spend at bars for asking different people out. And if you can't ask people out at bars or nightclubs, because these are most third places where most people go to ask people out, and culturally we have told a generation of men and still continue to tell them like it's not okay to ask women out at work. It's not okay to ask them out at grocery stores, not when you're out jogging. It's not okay to ask about the gym.
I saw a survey recently about
huge absence of third
people
places.
met.
Right.
They did this survey where people met, and it was just like online went.
Yeah.
And everybody is online now. It's not like they're meeting in faces anymore.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. But the other issue with like meeting people online is a lot of people are awkward online, type you online, and it's different online, and then also online, people can be fake online. A lot of people are also, you also got a lot more choices online, and then rejection is different online too. it's easy to shop around. You can open up just many different tabs, because the same studies also showed that men will swipe right more often on more women than more women won't. They put more X's than they ever go like, yeah, sure, this one's nice, but left half
Right.
the time. You have those
Yeah,
showed that.
I mean there was that guy who posted his statistics of him being on Tinder for like I believe it was like 5 years,
Yeah.
and over that time he like matched like he had swiped like 100 times a day,
hmm
basically,
hmm
and out of that he got one date,
Yep.
and he was just being confidently himself. Like he liked fishing, and this is what he posted for
Yeah.
stuff. He got one date out of being on Tinder and swiping 100 times a day
Yeah.
for 5 years. So it's a completely different
Yeah. I don't understand
place
that.
of romance.
Yeah. That bullying that like women do on men, like let's do this, let's pose this like we do in our fish photos. It's like this guy's got a hobby and he's showing it off. This is what he's doing, and you're denigrating this guy for. Well, they all do this because it's fun. This is what they want to do. This shows they have a hobby. This is what they want to do. Well, it's stupid. Okay, you're not into the hobby then. You know, I'm sure there's a hobby that everyone else does, and you think it's neat and in your hobby space, and you want to show it off, and it's the only way you know how to show it off, and people think it's dumb.
Right. Well, I think
You
it's
know,
better now
and it's
because
kind of
you can
hard to
find
pose
those
with a
people.
fish. Yeah,
You can find those people who are okay with that. Whereas,
yeah,
like when I was growing up, if you like something that nobody else in your area liked or enjoyed, you were an outcast. You were
yes,
different. You were just looked at weird,
yep,
and you had no one to enjoy. You had to suppress that part of you
mm-hmm.
because you could never enjoy it or experience it that way. So that
Yeah,
was something I
Well,
grew up with. And
the biggest
I
issue
got
with
into the internet as I got older and was like, oh, there are people like me out there,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not
Right,
anymore just to fit in.
the biggest issue, Rhinehold, is that for a lot of these hobbies and groups you get into, a lot of them are dominated by one gender or the other based on what it is. So if I go in, if I want to get into a book club and all the books are like these romance books and it's all women and me, some of them might not feel comfortable with me being in that space because they believe it's a female predominant space. Even if I don't have any interest in any of them and I'm just there for the
mm-hmm.
conversation, they don't feel comfortable with me being in that space in general. So it's just it's a mixed bag of, yes, there's more opportunity to connect and find your group now, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also the other fact of, because you can find your group now, it's a lot harder to find a melding point where you'll meet somebody that has like a slightly shared interest that links together, and then you get that expanded group of connection.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I got that in the
Mm-hmm.
so when I posted that about like the book club that I did, like there's a guy in here that was I was like, I can't believe this is happening. You're like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's to you, that's normal. That happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, this is what it is. This is like, especially with the kind of books I read, it's really hard to just be in a lot of those spaces because they're mostly predominantly
Yeah.
female or trans spaces.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Well, that just happened to be one type, and I feel right, we understand. I get it. Well, I will say like this, like we'll have like a group of like hanging out with like the girls for like yoga. Like it's always messed with me because like I've gotten used to it now, but like the whole like the check-in. I think I talked to this about on the Discord a couple of times. Like never used to check again. Completely different world than I've ever been to, and I was like, well, it's like I'm a 6-foot black man, and I've
Yeah.
Of course, I'm coming home. Of course, I made it home.
The reason we joke about you being one of the girls is because you're a part of their friend group,
Yeah,
and because of that, they treat you as if you are any other person of that close
right.
friend group. So they will do the check-ins or
Mm-hmm.
go through things the way they normally would with any other female that would normally be in the group.
Correct. Yeah, and I've made them. I don't know if I've made them happy, but I've gotten closer to a lot of them just because I do like, hey, made it home. Did this. I even done it when I've gone in. Probably, hey, made it home. They're like, oh, thank you for telling us. I'm like, we're like,
see. Here's the thing. I can see where it's influenced you because you do that in the Discord.
Yeah,
It's just at random because just like, hey, I made it home. And it's just like,
right. Yeah, it's just because it's this habit thing that they built into it. Like this is
right, because in my brain it's like, of course you made it home. I was like, or
right,
like,
right.
You went somewhere. My brain's like, you went somewhere. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But that's just part of the environment.
Different culture that we've raised up in. Yeah, different things of different experiences. Yeah,
and that comes back to the the whole bear question that was out for a long time that everybody got upset about. All the guys got upset about because the women would prefer to be the bear, and it's like you're missing the great opportunity to actually learn something by being offended about this. Listen to what they're saying and understand that this is their reality and their perception. They're not being mean. They're not hating on you. They're just saying this is what they have to deal with, and this is their reality. Maybe try to figure out how you can make that better, or just understand it, right, and learn something about it.
I agree, but it also has to be the inverse. Because there was the one I saw was that there was a wife asked her husband if their daughter was in the woods by herself, would he rather her be with a bear or a man? And he goes, the man, because the man would bring her home and I have a chance of getting her back.
Yep.
And she's like, but we don't know this man's like, yeah, but it's a bear will kill her. So at least I have the chance of the man will bring the kid back to me, the bear will kill her.
Yeah.
And then they made fun of him. She basically made fun of him for saying that and trying to tell him why he was wrong about him having that opinion.
Right.
Which I feel like it's also I agree that if you listen to the reason why women pick the bear, why some women pick the bear, perfectly valid. But I also think it should be valid for them to hear the other side of why if it was a man in that situation, why they would pick their decision instead of poo-pooing their thought process.
Right. And it's also funny when I do find the TikToks funny when they see like the woman on the side of the road trying to change her tire and like vroom, get the bear to change her tires. I think those TikToks are hilarious.
Oh man, get the bear to change your tire. Sprinkle.
I'm out of here.
But
that's funny. Those are funny.
But yeah, there's a lot of cultural division and perception changes, not just with gender, but since we are talking specifically about gender right now.
Yeah. Which I also get I get the aspect of trying to hear that the other side, but what's one again. But if we try to reverse it, flip the question and put it in the eyes, it's like, okay, we've listened, we've seen this, okay, can we talk about also what's going on in men's spaces? And it's usually like, well, you know what you're talking about. It's easily shut down and stuff like that. Like I've tried to tell so many different women, it's like it's going on dates are completely different for men than it is for women. There is women talk about well, there's a financial burden of getting ready. It's like there's a financial burden of being a man and getting ready for a date. You have to have these questions. You have to be passionate about your topics that you want to talk about, but not too passionate to listen to what she has to. But you can't seem like a loser. Also, you have to have a job, somehow live on your own, and can't be with your parents. So you've got to have this car, and you've got to have a nicer car, or a roommate, right? But on the reverse side, she could be living in her parents' basement, having this phone call with her dad, paying every bill that she's ever had, and can be unemployed at 28 years old and do nothing all day and just femme rotting in the basement. And you need to be okay with that.
I was never okay with that when I was dating.
I get that. But nowadays, you are supposed to be okay with that. It is a lot of this revert that other side. It's and a lot of people don't understand. It's listen, going on if the first date, just in Germany, the first date is a walking coffee date. That is it's German culture. A lot of different European societies is but here in America, no, they want to go off and go spend $200. But if you go into 5 first date, spending $200 a piece, out a grand, close to a little over $1,000. Okay, and it's abusive. So even if you do get a date, you're expected to, as a man, to pay for that first date. So it's a huge, massive financial burden for someone you may never ever see again.
and then there's also the fact that there are times where if they're not explicitly communicative, you have to decide where you're going. If they don't like
Correct.
it, then now it's your burden that you picked
Correct.
the wrong thing because you didn't read her
Correctly. Yeah.
intentions based on who she is, et cetera,
Hmm.
et cetera.
Right.
But I mean, again, there's a lot of burden on both sides.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that when hearing women in certain women's spaces trying to be women influencers going, oh, this male loser epidemic is terrible.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about any level of the male loneliness epidemic or men being lonely or
Hmm.
in spaces where they're suffering when they need help when people reach out to them, and then
Yeah.
them being countered by being called losers and not actually
Hmm.
treated any level of respect
Right.
for how
Yeah.
they're feeling.
Yep.
But I mean, I feel like it's the same way on both sides. You can't just paint all women with the same brush.
Hmm.
That men that other that's why the red pill community is dumb as a box of
Oh, you're
hammers, and I
so super
fucking
toxic.
hate them.
Yeah. Super toxic.
And then you look at there's also the opposite side of that of basically the pink pill, I guess.
The
The
pink pill or
female.
sparkle. Get that back. Yeah. That community. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a massive cluster of expectations and interpretations on things and who's supposed to do what and how
Hmm.
you're supposed to interact with one another and who's supposed to be accepting of XYZ things.
Right.
It's also very
Which.
frustrating when you see people like trans people in spaces where
Mhm.
they're expected to have both senses of
Yeah.
who they're supposed to be. They're supposed to follow the female representation
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
go out the process of getting prepared and then
Yeah.
also having the whatever reason the male responsibility in the relationship to
Yeah.
like pay for everything and how
Hmm.
that's a factor of that as well,
Right.
but that's a whole other element of it. But
Yeah.
that's just because gender and gender and sexuality and all that has
Mhm.
become a massive blanket statement instead of treating each person individually. It's just
Mhm.
become this person is this and this and I paint them like that, and
Yep.
you have to accept that as the paintbrush.
Yeah. I think that one of the also like the sad thing also when it comes like the male loneliness epidemic is the term incel using as a derogatory term for them. So you basically once again being sex and women being a prize that they need to have, and they quickly enforce that by using it as an insult. It's like, yes, you are a loser because you're not with a woman. You're not like that. It's like, no, why? Yeah, yes, they want to have sex and they're not getting it, but like but you once you re-influence that idea that it should be a prize that should attain. It's like no, they need to learn how to be good on their own and go from it. But it denigrating for someone from not having women having sex. Like, what are you doing? You're just reinforcing the same problems. It's tragic.
Yeah, but I think most of the people when they use that phrase aren't talking about people who are just awkward or not
No,
able to
mm-mm,
make a
mm-mm,
connection. It's more
mm-mm.
about specific, like using the word female instead of woman and being very Andrew Tate-ish.
Nope.
It's a blanket term. It's become a massively it's not only incel is a blanket term. The reverse term of femcel was also a blanket term
Yeah.
used for the same thing, but in women of
Yeah.
awkward and
I mean,
Mhm.
unsure.
I only see it. I only see it in that context. I've never seen it
Yeah.
in the other context. So it's always when I seen it, it's usually people saying that this guy is acting a specific way. He's being a specific type of like a MGTOW person, right?
What's wrong with MGTOW?
As opposed to because it's not most of the people who are MGTOW are doing it because of the wrong reasons, right? Does that make sense? I'm
They
saying,
make MGTOW men going their own ways. Men are just
yeah,
they don't want to have any relationship with women. They are fine without having women friends. They don't want to date women. They're just
right.
gonna go off
That's
on
not
their
what
own. That's
that's not what
MGTOW.
I'm talking about, right? But there are most of the people who are MGTOW are doing it because they're trying to punish women or they're trying to make a point that women are inherently bad people. Like it's or just anti-feminist stuff. It's a lot of people get into that space are doing it because of that mindset as opposed to, hey, I just want to focus on me and not worry about dating or anything right now.
I will say majority of MGTOW is just working on themselves. I think that you are some bad actors that just does something like that because they're bad actors in every location. But majority of MGTOW is like, no, I'm just going to work on me. I'm going to focus on me. That's all they. Majority of them, that's all they're wanting to do.
It just seems to me more of a reactionary response as opposed to an actual thought process of,
It can be.
I did that for 10 years. After I realized I was getting into bad relationships, bad after bad after bad, I was like, this is obviously it's not just the women, it's me. I'm doing something. I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I didn't get into a relationship for 10 years. No,
So you were in incel
home
10 years.
No, it wasn't incels. I didn't stay home. I went out and did stuff, and I didn't go very long without having relations. But it was never a relationship. It was always something else.
This is your Z-Car fuckboy stage.
Not really. It was more of I would just let women pick me up. That was really what it was. I spent 10 years
going. Yeah, that's
fuckboy Rhinehold stage.
But anyway, I was spending that time focusing on trying to figure out my thing, right?
Yeah.
And figure out who I was and why I was this way. Why was I attracted to these women who were like terrible for me? Right. That had issues. I was somehow attracted to them having those issues because I felt like I wanted to be able to fix them. Right. Like I would be their savior. I mean, it was just a really bad mindset that I had.
Yeah.
And I had to break myself out of it. But I mean, I wouldn't have considered myself MGTOW or incel at that point. It was just, I am taking time to focus on me, but I'm not going to just say I'm never going to spend time with women. I mean, that didn't make any sense to me because that's how you learn some of the stuff that I learned about how women think and feel and do stuff. You sit and talk to them. You have got relationships with them. You don't have to have a sexual relationship with women. You can just have a friendship relationship with women if you're not focused on that stuff. You just go out there and you learn and figure out what's going on. You work on yourself that way. You don't have to make it a movement or make it a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that the people who do that are doing it more as a reactionary place as opposed to a positive way.
So I see what you're saying. But I also want to put it this way: this is also a different world. A lot of these people, a lot of people who joined the MGTOW movement, they grew up watching the Obama administration weaponize Title IX through the colleges, and then watch tons of different men get their futures completely destroyed over like one small night out. With these like kangaroo courts and watch, it has been shown like Mattress Girl just got her college sued because of the crap that was going through it. It is because of the shoddy evidence that they used to convict and expel some of these students. And it's so I don't want to blame them. They have like one bad experience and completely sell it off. Like, yeah, it happens. Women do it all the time. We don't denigrate them. We just, no, that's freaking awesome. Go with you. And then if men do the same thing, I don't see a problem with that.
I don't know. I see a problem. It's just like
with the women do it or the men do it.
I think it's a reactionary on either side, because
it's like saying
a friend of mine. It's like a friend of mine who was like trying to tell me when I was I knew this guy when I was younger, and I quickly didn't spend time with him after this. But he was basically just saying that whenever he got stolen from, it was always a black guy that did it. So he had this thing about that wanting to live in an area that had black people in it.
Yeah,
right. It's that reactionary to it. Even his experiences are making him see things in a way that is not real.
Yeah,
but to him they're real. Right. And I think that's a position that people need to not get into. They need to, like, I think when you fall into that, you fall into a bad space. You start getting into a very bigoted type of view. Because you're focusing your opinion on a whole group of people based off your single interactions with these other people that had hurt you. And that's a scary, it's a dangerous road to go down, I think.
Yes it is. Yeah, agreed.
I think the issue comes down to is that because it's becomes a game of, and when women do it, nobody says anything, but if men do it, it becomes a problem.
Yeah,
I think that's what it boils down to.
Then it's toxic.
Like
Women
I
only
mean,
spaces, awesome. Men only spaces, toxic. We need to bring this down. We need to get some people in there. We got to tear this up. There are more women only spaces than there are men only spaces.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to open up a men's only gym, I would be shut down instantaneously.
Right, but why would you want a men's only gym? Is it
I
because
want
you
men to
feel
be able
like
to work out without having to worry about being on someone's Instagram feed. Joey Swole can't save every man. Okay.
um, uh,
I mean,
how
do we
about
see this
all
as
of the
a societal issue where most women we talked about having to have the check-in and the women how they have to deal
Mhm.
with the realities of the world around them to have a space sometime where they can feel safe. Do you not do you think men don't feel safe in gyms?
I think a lot of men, especially at the gym, do feel unsafe at the gym. They see their entire paycheck, life goes in front of their eyes. If they see a woman wearing anything tight and they accidentally glance that direction, and they get hit with a tripod camera. Um, you will actively see if you want to hit LA Fitness in the morning with me, I'll go ahead and help you. I can actually show you and watch women walk around the gym and watch men actively move around them, fearing of being on a camera or being just shot of being looked down, frowned upon, unless they actually know them personally and won't work out near them, just from a fear aspect of what the internet can do to people. It's the brain rot of the internet. It's just done to people.
I think the bigger question for me is that why is it okay to have female only spaces but not male only spaces? And and here's the thing: it's like I believe that both of those things should exist. Simple as
Mhm.
that. So that like there's a reason why abuse shelters that were men only are shut down,
Yeah.
and then they like there's like what one left? Did that one
Yeah.
also get shut down?
No, I think
Okay,
there's just one left. There's just one.
but then you also have the other side of it of there there are a bunch of things that have happened to men that men
Hmm.
don't talk about because societally you're not supposed to talk about it. That's why you end up with a lot of men with a lot of traumas that they don't want to bring up because even if they're victims of crimes,
Hmm.
either done by other men or
Hmm.
by women, they don't
Hmm.
bring it up because they're told not to talk about it. And then if they do talk about it, it becomes a whole thing.
Yep.
So, or people laugh at them for being abused, which
Correct.
is a thing that some people just don't take it seriously. So
Correct.
it's also
Yeah.
I feel like there's more to it than just going, well, this thing is okay, but this thing isn't.
Yeah. And also, like, also just a workout style. A lot of men want to drop weights, make loud, grunty noises. And a lot of women at the gym really do dislike it. Like, oh, I can't believe they do it. It's like, sorry, like, I enjoy grunting. It's a lot of fun when you sit there, pick up heavy weights, and just go, "Yeah," and just do that. Most men do that. A lot of women feel uncomfortable with it. That's the reason why they go to their own female only gym, because they're uncomfortable around that. So, like, why can't I just have a men's, call it grunters, and just have a bunch of men sit around, grunt, and drop weights everywhere?
Oh, I guess I'm used to that existing when I was growing up, so I don't know. It's
Yeah, but
weird.
a lot of the gym etiquette has been the newer gym etiquette, like especially the commercial gyms or bigger spaces, to be more welcoming for women at the gym. Has been we have been told to not to do that.
Don't forget about the clunk alarm.
Yeah, the clunk alarm of Planet Fitness, but like that thing's so easy to set off. You're just
Right.
doing any like actual working out, you set that clunk alarm, that lunk alarm off. Yeah,
The clunk alarm.
lunk
Yeah,
alarm.
but
What are you talking about? Uncle alarm. I have not been to a gym in forever because I work out at home, but
The lunk alarm
when I do,
at Planet Fitness is if you make any grunting or loud noises, yeah, they'll set that alarm off, and someone from staff will come and tell you to chill and calm it down, because the Planet Fitness is for everyone. So for real, not the super buff gym. It's supposed to get people back and shit. So it's supposed to take the intimidation level down. So really, you can't get a good most men can get a real workout there. You know, if you try to lift anything, you know, you may like Planet Fitness is great to get the habit of going to the gym. I won't knock that. I think it's amazing if you just want to get a cheap, easy habit of going to the gym in the morning. Planet Fitness is great for that. But once you've got the habit down, join a different gym. then you will quickly hit your genetic maximum real quick there versus there at
don't
Planet
go
Fitness.
to a gym at all. I don't understand. I guess I don't understand the culture.
Some
because
people
it's like, why
need to go-
spend money
it's the same
on
way
a
they
membership to a gym? I don't get
same
it.
way it's a communal space. It's great to
Yeah.
be around different people to help encourage you to go work out. It is nice. So I love hitting the gym at 5 a.m. because all the other guys that are there that ready to work out, they're there like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Let's get pumped. And so that communal aspect of getting there, there's hardly any distractions there because everyone's there to work out. And a lot of men will give you shit if you're on your phone or doing something besides working out, you know? So yeah, that's why.
Extroverts, Rhinehold. The answer is extroverts. Some people work out better in groups. So they go to the gym because they have their group there and they go and interact with it. That's the same reason why people join running clubs or anything along those lines.
That's true.
That they need the people around them to help motivate them to do the things they need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like to you and me, that sounds weird. To Harry, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way. Yeah, just like bars, you can drink at home. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You drink at home. You do all kinds of things at home. You can paint at home. But no, I love the communal aspect of going out and meeting people like that, creating a third place of the gym to go work out. You know, honestly,
I guess when I was younger, going to a bar was okay. I like going and just meeting people at a bar. It was fine. But as I got older, I'm like, I know all the people I care to know. I guess
I've got a most like so like most of I want to say good. Chimera is throwing this off, my math off. I want to say like good 90% of my male friends do not drink alcohol. It sucks.
Very rarely drink alcohol.
I counted you at 1%.
I'll take it. I'll take that 1%. But yeah, no, it's
so they're not going to bars to go meet people. Like I would love love to take them out and go do different things. It was like they're just going to be there drinking sodas, and they have paid interest for you to go sit in a room to have loud music bombard them. Like, have fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to a loud bar. I mean, I always hated loud bars. Like I would go to a bar that had a live band or something because that would be fun to hang out there. But it was never. I could never like meet people in a bar so much because it was always it was too loud a space. You couldn't do that because you can't have a conversation with somebody. You know, so you go to like a coffee house or something like that used to exist that you can. I don't know if they still exist anymore. But you used to go to like a place where they would do the poetry and stuff. You know, that sort of thing. I would go there. But
do we got the no coffee? Where's the no coffee house dates?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a stigma about going out for coffee for like the first date. Because
this is weird.
Because
I remember
they saw that as you're not committing, so you going for a coffee date for the first date that is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
So like for you, I know you're like, what? That makes no sense. That's part of where the culture is now.
You remember the movie Sleepless in Seattle? Mm-hmm. So Tom Hanks' character is trying to date again after he'd been married and lost his wife, and then so he's trying to figure out how this works now, and he's like. Talking to his kid is like, no, you have to go out to coffee first. That way, if you don't hit it off right away, you can just say it's good and walk away. You're not committed to anything. But if you go to dinner, you're committed to like an hour or whatever and all this time.
Right.
And that's what he was thinking. And then when he asked the girl to go out to coffee, she's like, well, how about we go to dinner? And he's like, oh, okay, dinner sounds fine. So, I just that part of dating, I guess, I'm out of. I haven't been around that scene for too long a period of time.
That whole premise that your coffee date, so if it goes bad, you can leave. That's the issue. It's like, well, you're not committed enough to put full effort in the date because you're willing to go to a coffee date or like a walking date where we just walk around a park or something. No, you can't do that. You're not committing enough into the date. If you do something.
I think what you're doing. I think maybe what they're looking at now is that you have the ability to have that getting to know you just through chat messages before you go on the date. You didn't really have that. I mean, when he's growing up, you might have phone conversations with somebody, but I don't know. It seems like it's different now.
That's true.
It's just weird.
A woman did blast a guy for taking her to the Cheesecake Factory for the first.
Oh
time.
yeah.
That is true.
Yeah,
she did.
With this
on TikTok because he took her to the Cheesecake Factory, and as they were getting She's like, I can't believe he took me to the Cheesecake Factory. I'm better than that. Blah, blah, blah. So he left.
I know.
Yeah, I would have left too if somebody gave me shit about that. I'd say,
She put him
okay.
on the internet, and the internet shat all over him, and so he had to point out that she was late several times, kept changing the times on him, and then he had a reservation to a nice restaurant, and when he told her that, she was like, oh well, and then tried to immediately change her tone after she realized that because of her own decisions they ended up at the Cheesecake Factory because they couldn't go to the reservation he had already booked. So then but he still got put on blast because she said the Cheesecake Factory wasn't good enough.
It's funny because there's a really funny movie from the 80s called Amazon Women on the Moon. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but there's a scene. It's like vignettes of like these little stories. One of them was Steve Guttenberg going on a date with what's her name? The girl from anyway, you would know her if I talked. But anyway, he's going on a date, but before she leaves, she goes, "Let me just check something." It's like she got this new computer system where they can dial into the computer and find out, his dating habits. Women would report to this centralized database now. And it's like a credit rating for dates. And it was just funny how he was just getting blasted like crazy for all his past behaviors.
Yeah, well, they kind of do that right now, even with Facebook groups going like, "Are we dating the same guy? Are we dating the same woman?" Stuff like that. Yeah,
right. I'm just saying this was predicted in like in the mid '80s. The technology was going to make this possibility where men could skate around and just be bad to a whole bunch of women and never get caught on it, as opposed to now just the innocent things can get you all screwed over.
Right, it's the opposite. If you're not committed in the way they want you to be committed, there's an issue. If you're not doing
it's like we're not in a committed relationship, we're not in a committed situation, so no, I'm not expecting you. What are you expecting of me for that? And I wouldn't even get into something like that. I mean, maybe I would check out her Instagram to find out if she's like that to begin with.
We've already spent more money than you by just putting our makeup on. We're in danger. Like, what's in it for us? So then all of that, plus this man is a pharmacist. The pharmacist tried to give me a coffee date on a Friday. Saturday, a surgeon took me to a beautiful dinner with a view. The next day after that, this other man took me to this food event where
he took me to a coffee date. Right? It's like and she's just shitting on him for it. It's like that's just
she went on 3 dates.
Yeah, 3 dates over a weekend. 3 dates over the weekend. Each of them
that guy who took her on the coffee date dodged a bullet.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Nothing wrong with it. Dodge that bullet, man.
Dodge that bullet.
Neo it.
Yeah.
He probably knew 5 minutes in that why am I here? Because you that attitude's coming out.
Yeah. So did the surgeon. The surgeon probably found out too. 5 minutes. He was at order the appetizers. Damn. Got 2 more courses. I'm stuck. Abracabro, the "Are we dating the same dude" is so lame. These women actually seek the top 1% of men in terms of finances, aesthetic, education, pedigree, and then get upset when Chad is creating a new single mom every other week. Be cold.
No, Rhinehold, I also put it this way, is that the perspective on what is realistic is so whacked. So if you ever look at women talking about how much they expect their partner to make on average under the age of 30 is asinine. Like 6 figures immediately, like before they finish college. Like, and they're like, that's the standard, which doesn't make any sense.
It's dating market's weird. It's a weird place. It's a weird place. And it's completely different than anything that you or I had any experience with. It's completely different.
Yes. I'm lucky.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've got a friend. She's single. She's a lawyer. Owns her own business, right? Demands a man to spend time with her and make as much as she does. And I'm just like, listen, love you, but any man who makes as much as she wants is like, it's kind of hard to fit.
Well,
You guys' schedules
they're-
are all flying. It's a good luck.
Yeah.
That's like,
and a lot of men don't want the women making more than they do
I don't know. They don't.
because
They
then
don't
they feel
care.
emasculated.
Money means nothing to most men. They don't care. No, they don't. No, they
Well,
don't. No. There's
all
there's no men out there that feel emasculated.
It used to be like that. I don't know.
If given the option, I would gladly be the housewife. I would
Yeah,
not give a
there are more men. There are more men that is willing to sit at home and be the stay-at-home husband, right, and let her work. They don't feel any emasculation. That's gone. No. That's probably existed at one point in time. Nah. There are probably
I grew up,
women who will try to demasculate their men because they make more in arguments. You know, that happens because I make more to you. Like, I'm sure that probably happens, but like, no, most men don't care. Men do not care. At least in dating worlds, like on how much it's other different things.
Most
What is it?
men
Weight? What is it? Weight? Right now, I think most men care about its weight for some
most
reason.
men don't care. To be fair, there are some super insecure men
Yeah.
who get into relationships and they were making more than their partner going in, and
Yeah.
then they got a promotion and started making more than they did, and they lose their mind. So
Yeah,
to
sure.
be fair, there are some men.
There are some of
like,
that. I will give you that. Yeah.
there
yeah.
are some men
Yeah,
that
that's right.
are so insecure about who they are that if the woman makes more money than they do, they lose their mind. There are some, but
Yeah.
it's not as much as it's being blasted out.
Yeah. There's a lot of different. There's different women that I know make a ton of different money. I'm telling you right now, it's like, hey, if you want a good guy that won't cheat on you and always be there, I don't know. Bang the. You should go talk to go to the local game store. If I'm going to see a guy there, this is where you're going to spend all his times at. He's going to spend his times there. These are his little hobbies. These are his little hobbies.
Yeah, like he sits in his room and makes freaking paints Warhammer minifigs,
Yep.
and raids on WoW. I mean,
He'll be there, completely reliable. He knows how to keep a schedule. Okay, that's what you want. Okay, all right. You don't want to deal with the kids? Trust me, he'll deal with them.
but yeah, it's the market. The way things are now are so tremendously different than where they were before, because you have to factor in. Harry, when would you guys say the internet became a mainstay in everyday life?
I
Man,
would say late 90s, early 2000s. It was Windows 95 made it accessible for everybody.
No. Business wise, most people weren't really on this MNF and really using it for different things. We're thinking about it as the local internet till like the MySpace, Facebook era. Like the social medias really started to kick it, really like Facebook and Hot or Not. Because
MySpace was
2006,
early 2000s, late 90s.
Say 2000s, 2007. I want to say before that, like I would tell people about the internet in high school in 2002, and they still look at me like I'm an idiot. Like, oh, that's the thing we got at school. Like, no, I got it at home. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
my memories are because I remember the .com bubble from the late.
Yes,
99.
people used it for business, and it was just us the elders of the internet, us nerds, cam models, old hackers, the elders of the internet. That's who was on there. And then the normies got on around like 2000. Yeah, 2000.
Probably as soon as they got an iPhone.
Basically 2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008. Yeah, basically like that.
So I would say that because I remember having both a MySpace and a Facebook in 2008.
Yeah.
That's
I want to say is that men don't care about income, PhDs, or how liberated you are as a woman. They only care that you don't cheat on them, don't start fights, and actually do something around the house instead of letting dishes pile up until they pay their own mom to do it. All right, this is we're not your therapy, okay?
But yeah, no, it's a completely since we've had 17 years of internet that is in everyday life.
Correct.
And push down everyone's existence, and that internet is a standard, and everyone has phones and technology and doom scrolling and instant information at their fingertips. And then you are able. It's way easier now to fall into an echo chamber of negativity than it is to find the actual group that you want to be in.
Right. Yeah.
What's funny is that I was listening to a conversation on a podcast today. So I don't know if you know who Chris Hardwick is, but
yes,
he's back to podcasting again. after
Nice.
3 years off.
Nice.
And his first podcast, he was talking with Ben Schwartz, I think, and it was they were trying to discuss like how long do you think before the younger, like the alpha generation, starts saying, our parents, our grandparents were stupid for being so open online. Like they're going to be much more like privacy, keeping that information from being out there online and being much more reserved about it than like a lot of people who are now, where it's like everything they do is posted on Instagram and here's what I'm eating and this is this and that, all that stuff. I think you're going to see a trend towards the younger people saying, no, I'm not putting any of that stuff out there.
So
just to protect themselves.
Here's my theory on this whole thing is that the millennial slash Gen Z, is right after
Zennial, yeah.
Your
people.
Those are the people that were told to always perform. They were going to be something that they were special. They put a spotlight on them, and they were always wanted to perform. And then they were given the opportunity to perform. They grabbed it with both hands and ran with it. Their kids are the ones that are forced to deal with their parents putting everything into existence. So their parents trying to perform, doing everything, trying to get as much information and as much spotlight as possible, easily move them into more of a less showy, flashy personality, because that's what their parents are. Their parents are this crazy, flashy, share everything,
parents,
all that thing. Yeah. So that's why now, if you look at a lot of the researches and stuff, people are talking about we want more platonic relationships in media, not sexual relationships. We don't want romances. We want these people to just be friends and not. And we don't want sex in our movies because we don't care about it like that anymore, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of created an inverse effect of where it is now with this generation of look at me, and now they're like, bruh, leave us the fuck alone.
Well, it's cyclical, because we had that in the 70s. We had the look at me, the me generation at the time is what was called, and people would get on the dance floor and they'd boogie and all that stuff and be out and open and stuff like that. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, it was much more of a grunge reversal back into, that sort of thing. And then it came back out again. So it's a cyclical. It's going to come back like that. But I think like you're going to see, I think Gunther, which, they grew up, is going to be more reserved about what's online, and you're going to be teaching privacy and everything else. Right. So they're going to learn, maybe I don't put, everything I think or do on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I'd have a very closed off existence.
Yeah. It's one thing I do try to tell people is like, it is that aspect of like, I don't post photos of her online. A lot of people, when they meet me, like, I didn't even know you had a kid. I was like, well, yeah, if you want you to know me personally, you don't need to know. But it came to like a post from one of my friends was saying, like, imagine you have something like you imagine a memory, right, that your mom's talked about, right? Now, she only really talked about that memory like with her friends, maybe at parties, right? She talks about it. But imagine now that was posted on the internet. Now that's shared with everybody. And someone found that. Now it's funny. And then it just keeps going there. It's always there on the net. Now, we went for something funny. What if you did something embarrassing? What if you did something wrong, right? It is always there. And you post it online for likes and clicks and doing it without, before you handed it, you thought it was kind of neat, but yeah, it's that thing.
But we also have this other massive issue here is that where society has hit right now is that the current adults or going into adults are significantly more tech literate than the older generation and the newer generation. The newer generation were given the tech with no explanation of how it works. So they just go, I'm going to press these things. If it doesn't work, I don't know what to do about it. So I want something new so it works, which is a massive issue where where I work, I've had people who are 8 years younger than me confused by something that people that are 10 to 15 years older than me confused about. Like, simple things. It's like, how do I put colors on these tabs in my window? How do I make these tabs colored? I was like, oh, you guys want to do that? Do this. And they praised me like a god for figuring out how to do this. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna tell everybody that you told me how to do that. Managers, people who went to college, who have degrees, who are 6 years, 7 years younger than me, didn't know how to do simple tech things. So I feel like we're in this weird spot of not the next generation, but the generation afterwards might end up being that locked all technology down generation, because the one right afterwards are the ones that have been inundated with crypto scams and
Mhm.
the fucking blockchain and Cocomelon and AI slop and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like the one after the next one might be that level of lockdown that article was
Maybe.
talking about, potentially, but the next generation is just as computer illiterate.
Well, it becomes when it becomes a utility, right? So like,
Yeah.
you don't have to know how a microwave works to make it work, but when microwaves are first starting to come around, I mean, did you have to learn how this sort of thing worked? Like computers, when we got into computers, my first computer, I was trying to research because we didn't have the internet. I'm trying to research and get information from bulletin boards
Mhm.
how to add a hard drive to an XT computer by having to go in and manually code in on the MLL the controller.
Mhm.
It wasn't an RLL, it was an MLM, I think, but it was a MFM. And so we had to get onto that and put in some codes and make it see the hard drive, right, in order to
Mhm.
make this work. And nobody has to do that anymore. They just pop in a hard drive. You know, there's things that become utilitized to the point where you don't understand how it works anymore. It's like this old
Right.
joke about, if I go back in the history, if I go back to the 1000s or the year zero or whatever, I'll be able to give all this technology, and you go there and they ask you how this works, and they're like, well, I don't know. It just works. Just you have electricity. Just go get some electricity. They don't know how to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a great thing I saw the other day about somebody who tried to make a toaster.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if the toaster thing.
Mhm.
And it's just like he was going, I have to go find some place to get the copper. He had to mine the copper. He's trying to do the toaster
Mhm.
completely himself.
Mhm.
And it was just an ordeal that you can't do that stuff like that anymore.
Right.
It just,
Right.
society's not like, so it becomes much more of a, appliance utility than it is a like learning how it really works.
Right.
And understanding how it works. Cars,
y-
another great example. We used to
right.
have to work on cars to make them go. We just had to know how to work on them. You don't do that anymore. You don't know how it could, because it's all computerized bullshit now. And you kind of just have to take it to somebody and let them run a computer program on it and figure out what's wrong with it.
It's not all computers.
I understand, but people, like a 17-year-old kid, they're
Yeah.
not learning that stuff.
Right.
Unless their
A
parents
lot of
are
them don't
making
want,
them.
and they don't want to know. They
Yeah.
don't. A lot of them do not. I wanted to show some kids are like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. But I feel like the millennials, like the full like elder millennials,
Mhm.
understand the technology, and then the late
Yeah.
millennials / Gen Z are the ones that understand like the software elements of it in a manner, because I don't know how to do what Rhinehold said about making a hard drive be seen, but I know how to understand Google Foo.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I need this thing. Here's how I troubleshoot to find the
Well,
thing
now
I
there's
need to
classes
solve.
on how to do proper prompts to AI to get the best response out of it. It's
Right,
like the new
which-
Google Foo, where now we have to learn how this AI stuff works, and
Mhm.
you're expected to make it happen. Younger kids are going to be able to just breeze through that because that's what they're used to. It's what they grew up with.
Right.
For
Yeah.
now,
And
until the AI, until enough of the
Yeah.
until enough of the
like
especially with art.
like the
Oh man, art's gonna be so
yeah,
hilarious when
like the
people keep
Excel
doing, like,
spreadsheet
Nightshade and
example.
stuff.
It's like people just going to go to Copilot or Chat GPT and say, how do I do this in Excel? They're not, or just do it for me.
Right.
Right. So there's plugins now in Excel where you can go and have Chat GPT in there You just say, hey, format to cell to do this and blah blah blah. I do this with programming. I mean, I know I'm not a vibe coder in any respect, but for convenience purposes, I'll go to ChatGPT and say, write me a PowerShell that does this, and then I'll take that PowerShell and I will validate it, because a lot of times there's a lot of problems with that code. So, but it gives me a good starting point.
Yep.
Right. Which is when I always did coding, I always take the existing program and say, okay, now let me change it to make it work the way I want it to.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing, where you're getting that initial code, and then you're saying, okay, now I need to tweak it to make it really fit for what I want to do.
Yeah.
But there are people now who are just doing vibe coding, where they just put it all in ChatGPT, and then whatever comes out, that's what they use.
We just vibe.
And there's so many security holes and so much stuff nowadays because of that. It's amazing.
Hey, I put dark mode on the dev environment. It breaks half the time, but it's dev, and dev needed a dark mode. Okay. You know, everyone. I refuse to support my dev, my vibe, my vibe, dark mode. Please don't push to prod.
I love these new like TikToks and reels about the vibe coder guys. Like, put him in there. He's locked in the room until he learns how to code on his own. And he's sitting there going,
I love
things are just different than what it was.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's just different.
Just different. It's different worlds, stuff like that. Yeah. It's
it's created such a massively the base knowledge that you have still exists, but there's so many new caveats that create exceptions or make you take the original idea and concept you have and have to warp it and change it and mold it to fit the new mold.
Yeah. I think we can at least agree that the weak men of boomers created these hard times that we're living through right now. We need to realize that the boomers screwed us, and it's not okay.
Oh man,
they are assholes.
Man, remember when they
going out the door?
Remember when they said that trade skills are bad and you have to go to college? I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that vividly.
I remember that.
I never saw. So here's the thing. My family was all trade skilled, and that's what's weird for me, because I don't get the whole thing where people are saying this. But my dad would not let me join the trades, because he told me, you don't have to. You're smart enough to not have to do this type of work.
Yeah.
Go do something where you can sit in an air conditioned office, and not kill yourself doing this hard manual labor that he was doing. He let my brother join with him, and my brother did that till he's getting ready to probably retire soon.
Yeah.
He said he could have retired 2 years ago, but he's still going. But that's kind of the area I grew up in, where I was told by my parents that they wanted me to do something else because they wanted better for me. But is that the same thing as what you're talking about, where people were told, go get the degree so you can have a better job than we had, because they wanted their kids to have a better experience and a better life than they did? And that's turned into a kind of a group of people, a whole generation of people saying now that trades are kind of beneath them.
It becomes this completely different argument of when I was growing up, you were told that you have to go to college. Like, that's the thing. That in order to be successful, you need to go to college. You can't you need to go get a degree and figure it out. I was at school and I learned things, but school wasn't my environment. If I'm honest with you, if I needed to learn something, it wouldn't be through school, because I would get everything done and do other things. So if I was in even if it was putting it into aiming it into something that wasn't, just a hard trade or something along those lines, it could have easily been, hey, you have the intelligence to do XYZ thing, let's move you to that, instead of forcing you to do the same remedial classes that everybody else is going through, which bore you to death.
I didn't graduate from college.
Neither did I.
I went for like a semester or two, and I never, but I would say fairly successful. right in that field where most people think you need a degree to
Mhm.
do it, because I learned how to do it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's I don't know.
Well,
It
'cause-
really is about what you feel comfortable doing and what you like doing. It's always been my
Right.
thing. If you like working on plumbing or working
Mhm.
on houses and building houses, do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
I agree. But
Yeah.
the issue is when you're told that, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. Even if somebody, even like when I was in school, there are kids you can obviously tell shouldn't be aiming to go to college, right?
right.
Their
Mhm.
focus wasn't school. They were doing other things. As obviously they could have easily just gone to do like a trade and something else, and they would have
Mhm.
been perfectly fine. But instead, it's more of the push them to go to college because is in order to be better, you have to go to college because everybody wants
Yeah.
you to have a degree. Because if you don't have a degree, then you don't matter. That's
Yeah,
that's
I
what
grew
it
up
was.
different. Yeah,
And that's what was pumped to me when I was going through school. Is
because when I grew
even
up,
though I didn't complete college and I've
mhm,
lived a completely different path. If
mhm,
I had somebody who's like, "Hey, I see that your brain works by you need to like the thing, and if I put you in front of this thing you like, you're gonna go here." I would have been
mhm,
amazing. It would have been perfect for me.
yeah.
But that's
I
not
mean, when I
how the propaganda of what we were told that you needed to be when you grew up.
well, I grew up in a farm area anyway, so half of the people I was going to school with were just going to be taking over their parents' farms. So there was a lot of people not going to college, and there was other people who just I enjoy working on cars, so I'm just going to become a mechanic, that sort of thing. There was
Mhm.
very few of us in my class. It was a class of like 42 people. I think about 14 of us went to college.
Yeah.
Probably, it's like a bunch of us a bunch of them went in the military, a bunch of them stayed home and worked on farms.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And that's again, that's what I mean. That's like when for me, you were basically told to pick your life
Mhm.
while you were figuring out your life.
We're,
Like, and you had to go directly from graduating high school to college because
Mhm.
if you didn't, you're the weirdo because you're a gap kid or you're not
Yeah.
going to get the money you need, or et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I also want to say like I said, like the Rhinehold, the world that you grew up in did not exist when Vincent went to school. That was completely
That's what
that
I'm
world
saying.
was
It's
completely
like,
shattered.
so
Um
I have a hard time
I
understanding this because it doesn't make any sense to me why
yeah,
somebody would be like, look at guidance counselors all sucked anyway, because if they
yeah,
were good at anything, they wouldn't be guidance counselors. But that always pissed me off when I was a kid, because if I had more of a hand in a guidance counselor type of thing guiding me, I
yeah,
mean, I obviously had a path towards computers, but I also would have really enjoyed being an architect or a lawyer. But I didn't find out that I would like those two things until I was in my 30s.
mhm,
And I'm like, oh, I would really love to have done that, but it's too late now because you got 10 years of apprenticeships and
right,
lawyer schools and everything you have to go through. By the
yeah,
time I would get through any of that stuff to make any money, I'd be in my mid 40s, like early 50s, and like,
right,
well, that's kind of stupid.
yeah.
So I just kept going with what I'm doing. But um, so we didn't have good guidance there, but it doesn't sound like anybody's getting
It's
good guidance anywhere.
it's not even the guidance counselor thing. Vincent, like when you went to school, because your high school, when you finally got to high school, you finally found someone do other classes that aren't like the academic to college prep classes. Like I barely got the tail end of shop and small engines, but like it wasn't
Yeah,
until your high school I think that was even an
yeah.
option for you.
I had I was in the last shop class that my school had.
Mhm.
I was in the last one that they had, and they discontinued the program.
Yep,
There,
because
there was no home ec. There was none of the actual like life skill things. The closest thing you got, like even like taxes or any of the
because
obvious stuff.
that's when you transfer school districts. Because when you were in IPS, those were non-existent.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are non-existent. They had English as a second language, everything else like that, but everything else like that was like because when I went to John Marshall, yeah, we were closing out the home ec and shop classes. A lot
Oh
of
no,
people.
when I was
When
IPS used to have like
I
guys who had a garage where they would get cars and
yeah,
donate it to them, and they would
yeah,
fix
like at
them up.
Tech,
It
yeah,
doesn't
at
happen
Tech,
anymore.
yeah, at Tech,
No,
that's about it. Tech is the only one that's left. Well,
that
but it barely came. It's starting to come back at Tech, Arsenal Tech, but no, John Marshall, nope. Nope. I just had a lot of people like shocked I knew how to use some power tools when I was 18. Like, you've used these? I was like, yeah, using them in shop class. I was talking about it because like
Mhm.
most people haven't, good. It's just one of those
My
things
shop
that
class was 7th grade.
so
We
when
had shop.
Yeah, so when he says like there was no other path, like because there
Yeah.
what they didn't illuminate another path. All you could go was that way, you know. So and it's for those kids that said like I don't know if I'll ever use it. This algebra stuff is like, hey, if you show them that algebra stuff works pretty and tricks that works great with building freaking houses and let them go do that. They're like,
Right.
oh, I enjoy doing this. This is what I want to go do.
And then you have the other side of it, was where you show any level of intelligence, they immediately go college prep classes.
Mhm.
We're gonna put you with these college prep classes because you need to go to college because you're smart. So
Right, you're
we're
smart.
not gonna let you do the other things that would even remotely lead to something that wasn't college
Yep.
because you're intelligent. They
Yep.
see that you're intelligent. They give you college prep classes.
Yeah, I only did the other classes because
Those-
the tech teacher, Mr. D. Vincenzo, was just like, yeah, you need to learn to, you know, this is like, I want you to understand why you should be working in these things. Like, what? We're gonna bricklay. What? We're gonna go take apart a bunch of greasy engines. We're gonna go do all this other stuff. Why? Because you need to know why you're going that way. And if you do like this, you can just easily turn the direction, and we can take the knowledge that you know about electrical for like for Cisco networking. We can easily start running wire. And a lot of kids just, no, I love doing this. I'm doing high voltage. I'm gonna make some money.
And then even the most basic things you think of, like my 10th grade English teacher was a teacher that my mom had when she went to that school. It was his last year there. And he basically straight up said, I don't care what the curriculum says, we're doing speeches. That's what we're doing. Screw papers. I'm picking my own Shakespeare books that we're watching and listening to and watching plays of and writing stuff about. We're doing speeches. We're doing at least 4 speeches, and so you know how to talk in to public, and you know how to interact with people, and know how to write these things, because they weren't just like regular speeches. It was like procedure speech. Explain how this happens. To talk through how you would do this thing. And then my friends who had the other English classes didn't have any of that. They didn't have any of that. And then when I got Shakespeare, I got Much Ado About Nothing, and they were like,
So good.
"Oh man, we got you know Hamlet or whatever, the obvious ones. Well, we got the more obscure ones because he was like, fuck it, I like this one better. We're doing this one, and I retire this year, so I don't care."
Yep.
So a lot of people don't have a lot of the experiences that you are thinking that you should have had because they were just removed.
Yeah.
And now they're
I mean,
replaced
it
with
helped-
this
it helped-
massive amount of technology.
Yeah. Well, it helped. Yeah, it helped that I had parents who were into trade. I mean, my grandfather was a master mason, carpenter kind of guy. My cousin was plumber for the sea in the Navy, and then you know my uncle was an electrician. So I had all of these, and my dad did sheet metal. And it's like we built a house that my parents lived in until recently, and we built that sucker. I mean, I helped lay the flooring, and then you know drywall, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff. I learned how to do all of it when I was in high school. So even if I didn't go into doing those things, I had a working knowledge of doing them. I can work in my house. I don't have to have somebody come out and work in my house. I can do it myself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, I mean, and I can work in my car. My dad made me work in my car. So I guess it's our parents these days making their kids learn this stuff, or are they just sending them off to school and letting the school take care of it and not teaching their kid these life lessons? When I went to school, I wasn't dictated to what I was taking. I would take what I wanted to take. It was my choice. I didn't get told I had to take something, you know.
The other thing,
Certain things you had to take, but mostly it was just like I didn't take physics in high school because it was only offered every other year, and it was at the same time as my band class was, and I wanted to get my letter in band, so I didn't take physics, which destroyed my life basically because I was going to go to Rose-Hulman, and they said I needed to take physics, so I had to go to junior college first. I was 17 and said, "Fuck you. You don't want me, I'm not going to go there." And then it just, I could have had a degree from Rose-Hulman, high engineering, blah, 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 and been much more successful than I ended up being, just because I didn't take physics in high school. But that was my choice. I screwed that up. It wasn't anybody else telling me that I had to do it that way.
Right.
I don't know.
I
I took physics.
When I was in school, I was It was the start of everybody having cell phones. Like I didn't get a cell phone until my junior year, and it was a flip phone with minutes, and you had we said to type out the letters.
Are you comfortable saying what year you graduated high school?
2012. So that there were people who had iPhones and stuff.
28 years difference there, or was it?
This eyes was like
94.
Like I put it right. Did you say you graduated in 94?
84.
84. Okay, you graduated 10 years before I was born.
Yeah.
So just put it into perspective. So I was the start of them having mobile cell phones in school, and now you get laptops from the school to do your schoolwork, and then you also have most kids have phones, not all of them, but most of them do.
Yeah.
But you have a laptop that is connected to the internet.
I remember refurbing.
I work on systems where we put those in the schools. So
yeah,
exactly.
Refurbing 486s in the school to use for the kindergartners.
Right, like my school, we still had the computer lab, so you had to go to the computer lab, and they had to set days aside to go to the computer.
In my school, my senior year, we got our first computer class because Texas Instruments was closing down their computer business, and they were selling their TI 99s for $50 a piece, which was a basic pre-Commodore 64 computer. That they also had a Trash 1 and a Trash 3 in the computer lab, but that was very specific. You could play on that, but so we had these TI 99s that we were learning coding on. It was basic coding. It was the first class I had with a specific teacher who was always my math teacher. He also taught the first computer class. It was the first time I got an A in his class. I'd always get like B pluses in my math classes, but it was the first time that teacher gave me an A on anything.
God damn it, Abaca, bro. Lip Biscuit 666.
And we would get in trouble because me and another guy would be sitting in the computer class, and we'd be over on the TRS-80 playing an adventure game during class instead of listening to what you're saying.
But yeah, it's like the way that you're viewing a lot of these things is so you have to factor in that
Yeah, I know. It's just what I'm saying. It's weird to me to think about like this stuff. Like, why wouldn't they just give you all your options and you choose and find out what's best for you? Why are they going to dictate things to you? It makes no sense to me. Like
because reports and statistics.
By the way,
yes,
I know. For to make it look like they're getting good numbers. That's why they're passing kids in school. They haven't passed their classes, but they want to get them. They don't want to look like they're failing. Because if they do,
they don't teach.
So you got people who can't functionally read. Getting out of school. It's like
they don't teach the students. They teach the tests.
Funding is also done with these statistics. Funding, based on
I disagree with that completely. I think the way they run in schools nowadays is so.
Yes.
Honestly, like it's not teaching people. It's like learn how to take a test, and which is important for for my thing is learning how to take a test. That's how I just kind of breeze through a lot of the stuff that I did for my job, because I take certificate tests. Certifications are much more important than degrees in what I do.
I really think we should bring down some of the requirements to get the Core 40, make it easier to get the Core 40, but academically, but add in certain other courses that you need for life, like forcing an empathy therapy session class. You have to take humanities course, teaching people etiquette.
Civics,
etiquette, civics, and basic nursing, just like a basic, first year nursing.
Every kid should take some shop classes to learn. And it was when I was growing up, it was the men took the shop and the women took the home ec. Screw that. Just make everybody take the home ec. Make everybody take the shop because it's life skills that they should learn. When I was in 6th grade, we spent 2 weeks, I think it was a week or 2 weeks, where our teacher gave us, here's a checkbook. It was a fake checkbook, and here's how much money you make, and here's your bills, and here's how to balance the checkbook and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think they teach that stuff in class in school anymore, do they?
No,
So
No.
I thought it was. I think it was this thing he did outside of the curriculum just to teach us how to do it.
bro,
The
I don't even
didn't
thought they
teach
taught
me
it when I was
that.
growing up.
That wasn't even in my school
the
when I was there at
only
that point.
reason like I knew that is because I went to Northwest, which had the business and finance magnet, and we had Miss Payne, an amazing accounting teacher, made sure we learned this crap.
Yeah,
Like
I was taught in 6th grade how to write a check and balance a checkbook.
yeah, and
And
I
pay
also
bills and what bills were like.
okay, so like all right, my wife probably hate this, but like she found out she's this year old when she found out with the whole 0%, interest and 0% APR, the pitfalls, what I always call that gambling, which is when you find out, like, listen, if you still put 25% left on that, you pay no interest for 16 months. There's 25 cents left on that balance for 16 months, they will tack on all of the interest for that whole 16 months. Like what? It's like, yeah, that's why I say that it's gambling. Do not gamble with that gamble. And you have to be able to buy it twice to take that gamble. If you can't buy it twice, you can't take that gamble.
But yeah, it's we're dealing with completely different eras of information because now if you want to learn these things, you have to go out of your way to teach it yourself online or having somebody who's specifically a mentor figure in your life aiming you towards these things, because the school's not going to teach you what you're supposed to learn, because they're teaching the tests, because in order for them to have their jobs, they have to keep teaching the tests.
And they can't get teachers because they can't pay the teachers much because the administrative is taking up all the fucking money that you're getting. If you look at the administrative costs compared to how they've risen as opposed to teacher salaries and how they've not risen, it's like all the money we're pumping into education is just going to middle and upper management of the schools.
Yes.
As a racket. And it's just like,
you
gotta stop
well,
that.
They also have,
they
have different, we've plaqued on different compliance forms that they fill out. They have all these different things that they have to do, and you need people there to do. It's the same reason why childcare has gotten so expensive. Yes, we should make sure the people that we sort of trust in our system, that we're not giving our kids to these awful, disgusting childcare facilities. But at the end of the day, they're just watching kids. Calm down. It doesn't need to be this deep, Because there's no compliance check if I just leave them with grandma, and grandma can just let them watching Paw Patrol for like 8 hours. But if I give them to someone and pay them money, like, oh nope, gotta have a curriculum and it's gotta have nutritional facts.
But how many if we didn't have such a redistribution of wealth to the upper classes over the past 30-40 years, how many families would be able to survive on one paycheck and have their somebody at home with their kids? You can't do that at now because we've transferred so much wealth out of the lower and middle class.
Yes.
And we haven't raised, and I know libertarians don't like this, but we haven't raised minimum wage in forever, so nobody can have like a living wage to live on because there's no incentive to pay people more.
I think we should have a minimum wage for a job that requires a bachelor's degree. I think that will.
I just think that we should be putting companies on blast who don't give their people a good wage.
Yeah,
and people should stop taking those jobs.
Yes, people should also.
Yes, I think agree.
Yes. Yeah.
However, you can't factor in desperation. If somebody's in a situation where something happens and they're desperate,
I understand.
They have to take it.
So no, that's what I'm saying. We should try to build a society, and we don't have to do this through government and laws. We can do this outside of that.
Yeah, like kind of like Glassdoor.
The goal should be to have a society where when you work, you're getting enough money to live on, and if you're not getting enough money to live on, then there's a problem. And I get that there's going to be jobs where somebody from high school is just wanting a second job or a part-time job to do something. That'd be fine, whatever. But if you're trying to just live, you should be able to just live.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. And CEOs making 20,000 times more than they're, than the people they're working for them, that sort of thing. It's got to end somehow because it's not going to be able to sustain itself. It's falling in on itself right now. We have wealth inequalities right now that's greater than it was during the French Revolution.
Yep.
Right. And that's why they revolted, was because of that. And we need to figure out why we're not revolting. We should be.
That's the thing. That's why I feel like
CEOs
yeah, that's why I say it's kind of like that, like this weird like powder keg, and that's always when I get. I'm afraid with the orange guys, like because he for some reason likes to play with fire, and next to these powder kegs, is like, dude, you're gonna set something off.
But
stop it.
But here's what's going to happen. So
off.
he's doing his thing with the right wing populism stuff.
Yeah,
there's going to be a backlash to it, obviously, and it's going to end up being a left wing populism. You're going to get a Bernie Sanders type person. It's not going to be Bernie, but maybe AOC or something like that.
Yes,
that's going to come in and say, look, the norm now is to do all this stuff as president, as a king fiat kind of person. I'm writing all these executive orders now where we're going to have all these taxes on businesses, and we're going to go back to the way it was in the 50s and 60s, where everybody talks about how great it was in the 50s and 60s. You had 80% tax rates on the wealth, over a certain amount of wealth, right?
Hey, I'll put it this
That's
way.
going to come back.
Like he is so toxic in where he is that other places are electing people just because the people that are there are kind of like him. So they're like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah,
literally,
you're too close. Yeah,
Australia's Labor Party literally had like the biggest win they've ever had, and they have like the widest margin they've ever had in the government.
Yeah, well, look what happened to Canada.
Yeah, in Canada,
they picked a fight in Canada and they swapped because the right wing was going to win that, and they just tanked.
But think about it, like that was going on in that's what also stopped in Europe. Europe was having like tons of conservatives were getting some wins, and then stopped. So it was like, whoa,
they just eked one out in which somewhere, which I can't remember. That was unfortunate, but
it was a fire that was growing, and like even like France was a bulwark. It stopped it. Like, listen, this ain't happening. This ain't happening. Calm it down. Yeah.
But
it's
everything is spreading everywhere, and everything's on fire, and then things are so much different than what it was before, and thus creating this massive change in where life is. And it's hilarious that we've got from Rhinehold, like, these guys like muscly men, to back in my day when the only technology we had were toothpicks.
I know back when Rhinehold got out of high school, they had like 8% savings account at banks. Look at it.
Yeah. But you know what else you had?
What? You
had 26% interest on mortgages and 8% on student loans. My student loans were 8.5% interest locked in. Good. When everybody else is paying 0%. I'm like,
good. What can you get CDs at? Like,
that's the thing. Everybody's like, so it's free money when you have 0% interest for the banks, right? The banks lending to each other at 0%. It's free money.
Yes.
They borrow the money and use that to gamble it on the internet, or not the stock market, right? And if they lose it all, whatever. It doesn't cost it. It's like free money to them, and that's what happens with all this stuff. Hold on. There's no incentive to have a savings account because you can't get savings account interest rates that are worth anything. So why not put it all in the 401k? Because that's the only place you're going to get money.
That's true. Yeah, that's
everybody's got all their money in the stock market. Yeah, the 401k is not saving anything, and all it takes is a collapse of the stock market, and you're going to see people's retirements just wiped out.
Correct.
And they're going to be just screwed relying upon Social Security, which is not going to be any money to fund.
Yeah, so
because you've got Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos hoarding all the fucking money.
The best example of that, I talked about this before, I linked it before. It was the collapse of Nortrel in Canada, and how that absolutely fucked people. Because it was so profitable, they were literally giving people stocks as retirement funds. And it became one of the highest GDPs in the world, and then just gone. Next day, gone.
Yep. Touching the company itself. Yep.
Yeah, we did that in the .com bust. We should have learned our lesson. .com bust. We had the housing market collapse. We've had these things happening, and we just forget to look and see it happening again.
In the 80s, Rhinehold these bastards were getting 18.65% 3-month CDs.
Yeah, you know why? Because that was the result of stagflation having to be fixed.
Yeah,
Volcker had to come in and say, I'm going to raise rates until it stops. And I don't care how high it goes. And he says, I didn't think it was going to go that high. I didn't think it was going to go to 27, 28%. They were getting sent, the White House, Reagan was getting sent bricks from all the people who build homes because they couldn't build homes anymore because nobody was buying homes because the interest rates were too high. So these people were out of jobs.
All right, everyone look for Rhinehold's new book. Everything is Volcker.
I love Volcker. Volcker. We need another Volcker in, and we're not getting it, and it's not going to happen, and it's frustrating. And it's like,
oh man, I was yelling at a podcast the other day, like they need lower interest rates. I was like, what? Are you serious? I was like, we need to go higher. We need to go higher. Actually, what are you talking about?
There's no moral hazard anymore in a lot of this stuff. So people are just going fucking crazy. That's why we had to bail out these fucking stock companies, Merrill Lynch and these people, because they played so much with the fucking money that when it collapsed on itself, I was watching an interview on a documentary, and I can't find this documentary. I wish I could, because they actually interviewed George Bush.
Yeah.
And this is years after he's been out of office. They're interviewing him for what happened. And he's like, I came in saying I was a free market kind of guy, and you let things fail when they fail. That way that there's moral hazard, and you stop this stuff from happening and playing with the money. He says, but they took me into the rooms and showed me what was going to happen, what literally was going to happen if we let this fail.
Yeah.
He says, I looked over the abyss at what the result was going to be, and I had to do something.
Yeah.
And that's when he did the thing with the,
I think
if he hadn't done it, it would have been so ugly.
Right. I think we could have got more out of the auto companies. I think they should have released, at least to the American people, their intellectual property. Like, no, the LS engine is open source to the America. Thank you. The rights to the court. I should be able to, as an American citizen, I should have the privilege of you. We bailed you out. We should have the. I should use the 3D printer and print out Camaros. Okay.
But that's the thing, is that too many people, even with all that going on, were like so anti-socialist that it's like you can't. The government can't own these companies. We have to do. It's like. I get it, but you gotta deal with reality, what's going on with right now, and not dealing with your idolized perfect world society, which isn't going on when everything's failing and nobody has any money, and the only retirement a lot of people have is going to be Social Security. That's all fucked up because we've got rich people still collecting it and keeping all their money. It's like, I don't want to get into a whole rant on that, but it's like we could pay off the freaking debt if we just went to the people who have all the money, that earned all this money through all these policies for 30 years and say, give us some of that back. You don't need all that money. Let's pay. It happened in the Gilded Age, right, with the robber barons. Eventually those guys said, here's some money. Rockefeller and those guys and Carnegie, they loaned money back to the government. They got the government functional again because it was all falling apart because of what they were doing. And they realized it, and they knew that if they didn't do something, they were just going to be sitting on a pile of money, but no services or people to do anything around them because everybody's going to be hungry and no jobs. So they had to do something. They figured it out and did it. Nobody's having that realization. Elon Musk is not having that realization. He's just trying to get more money for himself now. He's just trying to screw over the working class and the middle class so that he can have a few more $1 billion.
And I'm hoping that's one thing that Gen Z is seeing. I think a lot of them, when they, not buying a lot of the newer games and kicking in with the old school games, the whole like buy it for life movement and thrifting, a lot of them are seeing it. So I have hope, but interest rates just go high. All kinds of different things that you could go for. I am not a eat the rich type of person, but I am a Diablerize the Elders kind of guy. So I'm all sorry. No, I can't eat the rich, but I'm all for Diablerizing elders. Okay.
And it's like, okay, I know libertarian, all that stuff, blah blah blah, right? But you can't have, we don't have a free market. We haven't had a free market in decades, and nobody was realizing they're trying to defend a system, idolizing it as something when it's something else right now, and it's broken, and you got to fix it. Once it's fixed, go on to have a free market. That's great, but your free market's still never going to be the free and free market was never no regulation. The free and free market was that it operated freely to provide the best outcome, right? If you have people with the money controlling the regulations and making things work in their favor, it's not a free operating market anymore. You have trust getting built up. You have that's why you had antitrust legislation is good to have, to make sure that that market never gets cornered by anybody or manipulated by anybody, so that the proper outcomes can work. Like if you have all these regulations in place that prevents entry into marketplaces because of the high cost of regulation getting into it, then the people who are already there are just protecting themselves, and they're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and control the market more and more and more. You don't have real competition in order to make sure the prices are optimized. That's the problem with today's economics, is that you don't have a free market.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So a lot of people, what we're talking about is like a lot of these larger companies are using the force of the government to help create their little monopolies and stuff like that, duopolies, and they're little, like, they're keeping little cliques in charge. They're protection. They're using on different things. Yeah, just like it's just like the whole thing with the car thing. The main reason I harp on like the open source in the car market is because if you wanted to go off and go make a car or just make your own electric car market, there's so many different DOT regs that you have to do. But if you had an open source car that was ready to go, dude, you could make another car. Everyone can make it like a car market right there. You just make it. You can just make it. Help because you increase the competition, bring more people into it. It's the same way.
Beautiful the cars were in the 50s with the fins and the whole designs and all that stuff. You can't do that now.
Yeah, it was the same way with
no car markets. They were just people flying by the seat of their pants making cars back then.
Yeah, tons of different car companies. Now there's just a handful, and they were still losing to them. Nissan and Mitsubishi are probably not going to be here in 10 years, and Mazda is only going to be here simple fact because rotary heads are still buying rotors, and and Honda Honda likes their tech. Okay, that's the other reason Mazda's still living around. Okay, I love Mazda too. But yeah, I'm realizing, like, only because, like, these bigger companies are just are they're
manipulating the market for themselves.
They're manipulating it.
It's a oligarchy. I mean, that's
and
we have
the rules on the book to let it up. Like, and I think the idea of making it more of a free market and then bringing down a lot of these copyrighted things and making the rules easier, it helps bring these things down and helps us diablerize these elders' money. Okay.
All I know is that we need to tear that down so I can get a Who Framed Roger Rabbit too. That's all I want. Tear down all of that so Disney can get fuck off, and I can get a Who Framed Roger Rabbit too.
Yeah, we'll get that movie, and then we'll also do the reboot of Citizen Kane starring Chris Pratt, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I just want AI to be good enough to continue making Wheel of Time shows without actors or anything like that.
It would be sponsored too. It wouldn't even be called Rosebud. It'd be like,
there'll be product placement in there.
Mountain Dew Code Red.
Red Rider.
I can't even do it. I was trying to make a John Cena like, can't see me. You can't see me. God.
So this episode's getting long in the tooth.
It's super long in the
tooth.
tooth.
We just kept going. There's no break. We just kept talking.
We vibe.
I could keep going. We've done this before. I've done 4 hours before without even winking an eye.
We hit the 2 hour marker of vibing.
Harry and I still have a whole rant to go on later this week, so look forward to that.
It's like I wasn't sure how far we were vibing, because I didn't want to jump in. It's like, it has been 2 hours. I'm okay with keep going, but it has been 2 hours.
No,
I know you guys actually have
our poor audience
other
is like,
people to go see.
I know. I'm waiting to
Leader's going to be like, my cost, my street,
I
my.
know.
So
You know what?
actually-
I'm going to try to do the Spielberg jump of like 30 people, right?
So here's the funniest thing is that this all started because you went away and I was like, all right, let's get Rhinehold's quiz out of the way. And now we went for an extra hour than
So
we
it's
normally do.
so it's
Because of
your fault.
Rhinehold's
Hey.
quiz.
I figured that quiz we'd talk for like 20 minutes and go on to something else. I didn't
No.
think it was going to
2
just end up
hours.
like this.
2
Two,
hours.
2 hours. 2 hours.
See, I bring the topics, baby. I bring them.
Is it?
The funniest part is the other two things. were
Wildgate
also
is coming out,
Rhinehold
by the way.
topics.
So, free demos for Wildgate. Get a check on it. It's made by the people who made WildStar. Some of the people who made WildStar. So it has that look and feel, but it's a first person. It's a shooter and space combat. Looks great. Give it a shot.
Yep.
Not sponsored.
If you want a really cool game, it's coming
If
out
those
July
guys want to
1st.
give us the money,
Mecha Break. Mecha Break's coming out July 1st. Mecha Break coming back.
is it July 1st coming out?
July 1st. Mecha Break. Take that week off. Anyways,
Well, I get 2 weeks. First 2 weeks of July off. So.
Nice. So, hello everybody. This episode has gotten very long in the tooth, and if you made it this far, you are a true key holder. This is some of the content you get into our 1,000 a month key only, our key club. Can I call it? Should I call it the key
No,
club?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But Harry, you'll be dodging more allegations than you already are.
Some bunny ears on the key.
People already think that you're a beard.
You
And
know,
then you had the invites to be a part of Poly too. I mean,
yeah,
calling it
I'll tell you
a
some of
key
this.
party, you're not dodging any allegations, sir.
Yeah. So I want to thank you guys for listening. You could have been listening to anything else in this one for 2 hours, but you decided to listen to this. Thank you. This is a live podcast. We usually only go for an hour, but today we go for 2. Record on 9 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays. Please come back on the line for the 350 of you guys who downloaded this on a podcast as podcast format. Awesome. It's awesome. This is a podcast network. This is where we're from. We're glad you guys downloaded and enjoyed this show. Please come back. Get with your friends. But if you want to watch us live, you can get us on twitch.tv/wearelibertarians. There's a little letter R or youtube.com/wearelibertarians. Come hang out with us. It's a lot of fun. Read your thoughts on live and be part of the conversation. Anyways, say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.